Are you listening? This ain't no quiet thing. We're screaming out our lungs. Hey, are you listening? Hey, are you there? Hey, are you listening? Or do you just not care?
Hey, it's Hey, Are You Listening? This is a podcast exploring the past, present, and future of Christian music. My name is Joel, and I'm here with my good friend Brandon. We connected over a love of some mutual particular artists, but we have kind of different tastes as well. And so we get to experience some new stuff from each other while sharing in love for things that we have in common. And sometimes we invite some people along for the ride. So it's exciting to be here. Brandon, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. I'm glad you're doing well. It is it's a Monday. We record these episodes on Monday. I don't know if we've talked about that before. Do you feel like for you recording these episodes on Monday afternoon like changes your Monday in any like significant way?
I think it does. There's a lot of music on the weekend, like binging it. So I feel like that's nice because it depends on the artist, but I am someone that I've always enjoyed getting to sit down and look through the lyrics. So I feel like if I do that during the weekend, I get time. But if it's during the week, there's a lot of listening, like primarily if it's like in the car, but you also have podcasts you're trying to catch up on. So I feel like it gives a nice, the weekends are for the music and the weeks for the podcast.
Yeah, I get that. Mondays, I know for a lot of people, Mondays are like, it's Monday. But I actually really like Mondays. Mondays around here, we have like our staff meetings at our church, and they're super fun days just to get to hang out with everybody and everything. So for me, it's just a good cap at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I'm with you that the weekend gives me space to like prepare, which is helpful. So that's good. So today we're going to do something a little different. But before we get kind of into that, let's talk a little bit about what's in the news.
What's in the news? What's in the news?
So I don't know if you really caught this, Brandon. I saw this on social media this past week, but do you know the actor Oscar Isaac?
I've heard the name.
Yes, so he's in like the Disney Star Wars trilogy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's Poe, and he's also like Moon Knight in the Marvel world and like some other stuff. He's been in a lot of different things. So in the early 2000s, Oscar Isaac fronted a Christian ska band, and they're called the Blinking Underdogs, and they're actually pretty good. I have so many questions about this. I found a clip that people were sharing online, and I'm just like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever. I mean, it's like him up there singing songs about Jesus, and I'm like, this just opens up the world for me. Like, we need to have Oscar Isaac on the podcast. So
I'm sure he's listening.
I've got questions. So maybe I don't even know how. We need like a series of people that can help connect us to Oscar so that we can get him on the pod.
I feel like it's always interesting when you see like random actors who like, like you'll have a story where it's like, oh, the faith is a really big part of their life or whatever. But it's even more so when it's like it goes a step further. So it's not just they go to church or they, or whatever. But it's like they're in a ska band or they used to do like Christian like sketch show or something. And you're like, oh, that's deeper than just being a Christian.
Right,
You're
yeah.
like producing like art or whatever like that. So I always feel like it's cool when you get to just have that like step further with it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And so that one just kind of blew my mind. I'm going to have to do more of a deep dive because apparently they put out a full length and an EP. And so I need to get these. I don't know if they're on streaming or not, but I'm going to have to figure this one out and see if I can track it down somewhere out there. It's probably like independent.
Yeah.
So we may have to dig it out. I don't know if Oscar himself has like put it out on streaming. but we'll have to see what we can find. So I thought that was an interesting thing. So I thought today we could play a game, and this is kind of a back and forth one. Just a little bit of us. I don't really have a name for it, but it's kind of just the idea of what's the first artist that comes to your mind when we say a specific word or an adjective.
Okay.
So, for instance, if I told you the word hyper, what would be the first Christian artist that pops in your mind around the word hyper?
Family Force 5.
Family Force 5. So there you go. So maybe we can just kind of do a back and forth.
Okay.
Like you give me an adjective, I'll give you an artist, and I'll give you an adjective.
Okay.
Let's do it. You're
All right.
next because I already did one.
All right. Here's the next one. I don't think this is an adjective, so there's going to be a couple of nouns thrown in.
Okay, sounds good.
Vinyl.
Vinyl. Sufjan Stevens.
Okay.
He's a little bit on my brain right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, probably because I have everything that he's ever put out on vinyl.
Okay.
Okay. Contemplative.
Can you use that in a sentence?
They were contemplative.
Oh, that clears it up. I really don't. I don't know what this word means.
Thoughtful. Thoughtful.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Me Without You.
Interesting.
I was like, that word sounds mysterious. Me Without You is mysterious. They're
They're thoughtful.
they think a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Radio.
Radio. I don't know why this popped in my head. Building 429. Why did that pop in my
I could see that.
That's the first thing that came to my mind. A spark.
1,000-foot crutch.
Okay.
Was that separate or was that one word?
I don't know. I'm just making this up as I go along.
Authentic.
Rich Mullins.
Okay.
Flavorful.
Let's see. Flavorful. Oh, I'm trying to think of what that band's name is. I'll go Lorne Daigle.
Lauren Daigle. Okay, interesting.
Acoustic.
Jars of Clay.
Okay.
Quiet.
Jars of Clay.
It's almost like we just did that. Okay. Well read. I'm staring at a bunch of books in my office.
I think I'm gonna go with Steve Taylor.
Okay, it's a good one.
I'm trying not to use the same band twice. So I would have been like, oh, Aaron Wise seems like he's just reading books
Right.
like in his
Yeah,
sleep
yeah.
or whatever. Timeless.
Amy Grant.
Okay.
Maybe this will transition a little bit into where we're going. Great Live.
Ooh, great live. Toby Mac.
Okay, awesome.
All right. How many more you want to do?
That's good.
Okay.
Maybe that's a good transition point
Okay.
for us to talk about the fact that today we're going to be talking about some of our favorite concert experiences, some of the best shows that we've been to. But real quick before we dig into that, we've got to talk about what we've been listening to lately. So for you, what's been something that you've been spending time with?
I really like going on. I was about to say there's an unnamed streaming app that I use.
Okay.
But But no, on Spotify, I would imagine there's something similar with Apple and with Amazon Music or whatever. But they have like your like a on repeat playlist, but they also have a thing called repeat rewind, where it's like songs that you were listening on repeat to maybe like a month or 6 months ago or whatever.
That's cool.
So I love going back and like sometimes if I just don't have time to do a playlist or I don't know what I'll listen to, I'll listen to on repeat. But then other times I'll go back and I'll listen to like the repeat rewind. So it's like 20 songs or whatever that at one point I was listening to a ton. And so I feel like it's cool just going back and kind of getting to rediscover music that I either just really loved or that maybe was like helping me through a certain point in my life or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just love getting to put that on, and I think that it's what's cool is like I love when it can kind of like learn what you're listening to. So it's like I get my playlist without having to put the effort into it. So it's like if someone just delivered a pizza to be nice. It's like I don't have to order or pay for the pizza. I just walk in my house and there's a pizza on the counter.
That's cool. Yeah, Apple Music has playlists like that kind of capture stuff you've been listening to, and they also have like I check this out every Friday. There's a new playlist of like things that they think I'm gonna like. That's new.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is kind of cool. So I'll check that out. They also just made an update to their like the way playlists work, where they in a playlist they'll connect songs together that fit well together, and like what they're in like the same key or there's something similar about the rhythm, and they'll transition from song to song, but in like a really nice way, and so the playlists feel kind of cohesive. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but it's a feature that I appreciate Apple Music doing. So for me, I've been kind of going back. I mentioned him earlier, but Sufjan Stevens is a guy that I've listened to a lot in my life, and I've been just jumping back and spending some time with him lately. And one of my favorite records by him is a record called Illinois, where he was doing like doing basically for 2 states. He did albums based on the states, one for Michigan and one for Illinois. So, but Illinois is an amazing record. It's technically called "Come On, Feel the Illinois," but most people just refer to it as Illinois. So, but it's just a fantastic record, and one of my favorites of all time. So that one's been fun to just kind of dig back into. So, well, let's transition and talk a little bit about some of our favorite concerts. All right. So, Brandon, you kind of had this idea of like looking back at some of our experiences. Talk to me about that and why you kind of wanted us to have this conversation.
Yeah, I think for me, so we grew up in a place where there wasn't a ton of artists that came through. So we probably had to drive 45 minutes an hour to like the nearest where you would have a band come. But even for us, that would have been Columbia, South Carolina. But even a lot of bands, even nowadays, they'll probably hit up Greenville and then maybe Charleston. So really, they're hitting everywhere around except for Columbia. So for me growing up, I just remember it was so cool. These songs that meant so much to me, just in life or just like my faith too. I feel like it was just this gateway to not just what I was growing up in, but like what the entire world was and how there's different like thoughts out there.
Yeah.
So for me, it was so cool that when you would get to take these songs that meant so much, and then you got to go to a concert and you got to see that person perform them. And as someone who just like, I loved opening a CD and looking through the booklet and looking at what design was on the disc itself, I feel like it's a whole nother step when you go to a show and you get to see where, oh, they changed that lyric about this, or they're telling the story behind it. So for me, it's just such an experience, and I love getting to see people who go to their first concert and they just get to go, man, I felt like I knew music, but now seeing it live is so, and
Yeah.
you know, as someone too, like it went from these like giant places where it's thousands of people to now going to concerts where it's like maybe 100 people. To me, it's just cool, like getting to experience that. And I think for both of us, we've not only gotten to experience that, but I think too, just we got to experience like different like eras of that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I feel like it's cool just going back and seeing like the people that were my favorite bands versus yours, and seeing if there's like overlap to that, or if, you know, whatever it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. I agree with you. Like live music probably shaped a lot of my love for music in general. Just some of the first times that I was able to experience artists. I feel like for you, it's just something that I've gleaned from hearing you talk about music is that concerts actually really do play a really important part in your like discovery of artists.
Yeah.
And a lot of bands that you really love, you love because you went to a show and they were an opening act or whatever it may be. And I think that's true. That's really true for me too. That there's just a lot of artists that I've been exposed to.
Yeah.
This is not a Christian music situation, but I went to see one of my favorite bands, Wilco, live one time, and the opening act was this guy sitting on the stage with an acoustic guitar called Bon Iver. And today, Bon Iver is probably bigger than Wilco, pretty significantly. But getting able to see him in that setting before he was who he is was just kind of a cool thing. And so it is neat being able to capture moments like that live and be able to experience something that's pretty special.
Yeah.
So I'm with you, and I'm excited for the conversation.
Yeah, so I guess we can go ahead and jump into maybe what the first concert was, or maybe the first one you remember playing a huge role. So is there one you remember that was just like a, wow, this is something else?
Yeah, I probably went to concerts as a kid that were more like pop oriented, or I don't really know. I went in middle school to a camp in Texas, a summer camp with my youth group called Friends Forever. And this is like a youth camp at Baylor University. And the interesting thing about it was, you know, you go to most youth camps, you do games during the day, you have this morning thing, do games during the day, then you have like teaching and worship at night, and then you like break off and go talk to your youth group or whatever. Friends Forever was like it was a similar camp model in that you had worship, some kind of worship thing in the morning, you do some fun stuff during the day. At night you would go and they had worship and teaching. And I remember it was like, I'm dating myself pretty significantly. This is the 90s. So this is like the beginning of like the worship movement in the early 90s, probably 90, 91. And so all that was out there in worship was like the really old stuff, like Lord, I lift your name on high and stuff like this back then. And so worship was kind of, this was before like Passion and stuff. And I remember that because I think Maranatha singers were like the worship leaders. And I'm pretty sure Louis Giglio was like the teacher of the camp, but he also was part of that group, like singing and leading in worship, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, so you do worship and teaching, but then every night ended with a concert, like every night of camp. So you're there for like 4 or 5 nights, and every night you get an artist. And so I remember at Friends Forever that year, it was like For Him one night, it was Steve Camp one night. But the one that really stuck out in my mind was Petra. So Petra played at Friends Forever, and that concert, it was the first rock concert I ever went to, was ever a part of. And I remember being down front somehow. We got good seats that night, and just seeing Petra. They were on their Unseen Power tour So this was the album like after Beyond Belief, probably like the height of their popularity. And they killed it. Like it was so good. And it opened up this part of me that I didn't know like existed, because I'd never really been exposed to anything like that before. And man, I bought the cassette, took that thing home, and I wore it out. And it was all I listened to. And then I'm like buying more Petra records, trying to get into it. And I didn't stay in the Petra world for like too long after that, but it really opened a door for me that to just a world that I hadn't experienced. And so I'll always be super like thankful for that. What about you? Like, what was the first concert that was really meaningful?
The first one I remember going to and just being like, "This is gonna be so amazing," was Winter Jam, the 2007.
Our dates are so far away from each other.
So I remember being a young man.
How old were you then?
I would have been. See, they usually came February, so I guess I would have been 14 at the time.
So a little older than I was. when I
Yeah.
first.
And before going into like why it was amazing, I just want to highlight a little bit of the lineup for this. So you had Jeremy Camp, and at the time, everyone like Jeremy Camp was known as like, oh, he's a good singer, but all of the like girls thought he was just really cute. And then Stephen Chris Chapman, you just have like kind of like who I thought was gonna be this random person there. You have Sanctus Real, and that's when they'd like just released Face of Love. So that's probably right when they're starting to pick up a lot of steam.
Yeah.
But what stands out to me is that they had a guy there who was a impersonator of George W. Bush. And I just thought, like, what a time 2007 was. Like, can you imagine like in just the past 10 years, our political climate? Imagine how divisive it would be if you had someone that got up as like a Trump impersonator or like a Biden. And so I feel like it's so weird thinking back then there was no one who's like upset about it. I mean, sure, there's some people were, but no one was like, oh, this is outrage. It's more of like either, oh, he is kind of funny, or yeah, that's silly what he said.
The internet hadn't ruined us yet.
Yeah, and so I just thought it was interesting. But yeah, I remember that concert. I remember singing.
You left out New Song.
New Song was there too. No, I liked the show. I remember the two that stood out was Sanctus Real, and I was just like, man, this is so cool. And I remember Steve and Chris Chapman just being surprised, because I guess it's like you listen to stuff on the radio and you just assume, okay, he's gonna be this like guy that's just out here singing like, I don't know, kind of like boring.
Yeah.
But like, I love seeing him live. It was a really good show, and I just remember being so excited going up to like the merch booths and buying like my CDs, getting in the car and immediately putting them in the CD player, just to be like, oh man, I got to listen to that song again, or like, what was that song about?
Yeah.
You know, and discovering other ones. And so yeah, that was the first show, and two, it was like before Winter Jam just became like too overboard, because like you would still kind of like fill up the place. And they also would give like booklets. So like each person got a booklet that was like, here's the artist here, here's some information. And I still have mine from, I think, the 2008 one. And so now I just go and I'm like, you have too many people showing up to Winter Jam. You have no booklets. And so I feel like Winter Jam just really, they turned their back on our fans like me. That
Oh man, that's such a bummer.
I'm sure they're really upset that I'm not showing up and being like, so you're saying we print off 10,000 booklets, you're gonna show back up? I'm like, yes, a booklet. I would like.
I'm pretty sure they have that available digitally for you now, Brandon. So
A QR code I can scan.
yeah, as you walk in through the gates. That's cool. What if, I know for me, like there's probably like stages to this of like walking through my life and hitting moments where I'm like, oh, my eyes were opened in a new way through
Yeah.
seeing a different artist. Yeah, one that's probably like a next one for me that was a big deal. So in Jackson, Mississippi, where I grew up, we had Coliseum. I mean, a lot of big cities have a Coliseum, right? And so we had the Coliseum, and I got to go see. This was probably high school or late middle school. Wait, it was 93. So yeah, it could have been either one. Like it's probably either my 8th or ninth grade year. I got to see the Michael W. Smith Change Your World tour. And so Michael W. Smith, I always loved, and I love that record a lot. And it was like one of these, like, you talk about like a big show, like super produced, like,
Yeah.
they like put in like the walkway that comes like through the crowd. And like, I remember Michael W. Smith coming down the walkway, and I remember it just being like this really big deal. And he had some that record was kind of his, like, if he had a record that was like his breakout record, it was that one. Like he had a song that was pretty big,
Yeah.
on like the secular charts. Or just, it was a great album and pretty innovative. And so it's cool seeing him, but probably went more for the openers than even to go see him. And that's because the band that was opening for him was DC Talk. And they were touring their Free at Last record.
Okay.
And which is their third record. And it's up there for me for sure. It's like it's a pretty great album. And one that just really stood out to me, one that impacted me, I think, in a lot of ways, like kind of a rap rock kind of thing. And so it was so cool. I remember, as great as Michael W. Smith was, and I still have a lot of respect for that guy, I remember walking away, and the only thing I could think of was DC Talk. And I had already been a huge fan, so I already had the music. Nothing was a surprise to me.
Yeah.
But experiencing it live, just like amplified it to another level.
Yeah.
Being able to see Toby do his thing, being able to hear Kevin sing, like, and you're like, oh, he actually is like that good of a singer.
Yeah.
Just being able to experience all that stuff live was just such a cool experience. And it wasn't a tape. They had a band, and it was just a killer show.
Yeah.
They definitely knew how to put on an amazing show. And so that's one that just really stands out to me, kind of as like a next one that was pretty impactful. When you think about your thing, can you think of like another one a little further down the road that was pretty impactful for you?
Yeah, so we started going to Winter Jam pretty much every year, like me and my mom, and we went in 2010. They had audio. It was called Audio Unplugged. So it was Mark and Will from Audio Adrenaline, and then it was a couple of other members, and they would go on to form. I don't know if you ever listened to No Hope Collective. So it was
No.
kind of this like worship Christian collective or whatever they did. They just released one album, but it was kind of, I guess, in between Audio Adrenaline going on hiatus and then them coming back with like Kevin Max. But it was the whole day, the whole evening was just them singing Audio Adrenaline songs, then a couple of the new songs they had sung. And it was just so cool because with Winter Jam, it was always the artists are up there on stage, so you're far away from them. If you want to meet them, you either got to get like some kind of pass or you got to stand in line. And at this Audio Unplugged show, it was just at a church, like maybe the size of our church, maybe a little smaller. So it was just so cool getting to hear like the stories behind all these songs. And I'm sitting there thinking like, man, we can do that. Like we can trade pyro and all for more like storytelling. Like,
Yeah.
yes, please.
That's
and,
awesome.
So after the show, I got to go up and I got a photo with Mark and Will. And I remember just thinking like, this is so cool that I got to like meet these people.
Yeah.
So it was kind of that next step in not just like getting to hear them sing, but feeling like I got to meet these people and
That's
be
awesome.
like, hey, this is so cool. And I think too, at that point, it was Audio Adrenaline had kind of already like started making like an impact in my life. And so then that worship project they did, it was cool too, because it kind of, I think, started like maybe softening my heart for like worship music doesn't have to be like fake or artificial or whatever.
yeah.
And so yeah, I think that was my next step in being like, oh man, like it's cooler just to have a couple of hundred people here than to have like 10,000 people
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Moments like that, I feel like, yeah, for me, like when I think through a moment that kind of like brought things down to a smaller level, but
Yeah.
I was impacted pretty significantly. I, in high school, started a band and we were terrible and then got to be okay. But there was a point in time in college where we got added onto a show for a band that we really loved and were excited. And it was a couple of hours away from where we lived. And so at like a Christian college in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And so we hopped and went down and we were playing with the band 238, which was a Tooth and Nail artist. And I had never seen them live up until that point, but being there and seeing them play with probably 100, 150 people in the room, just in like a big room at this college campus, was one of the coolest experiences that I had ever had. And seeing their chemistry and how tight they were and how full and big the sound was in a small space, you just felt like you were part of the music as it was happening.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the first times that I really like felt like, even though I'd been in a band myself, like I really felt like caught up in what was happening at a concert in a deeper kind of way, and like drawn in, like, this isn't just a group of like people on the stage that we're all watching, but we're like all part of this experience together. That concert just stands out to me. And we played with them a bunch in the future, so I got to see them live a ton. They're still to this day one of my favorite live bands that I ever saw. But there was just something special when they played, and that night was a really special night. And the cool thing was, like, we were just a bunch of college kids trying to figure out how to be in a band. But they spent a ton of time with us afterwards talking about amps and EQs on amps and all kinds of stuff, because we opened up for them, and they were just like super helpful and the most genuine dudes. And so that one like just hit me in a big way, but it kind of felt like you were saying, that more kind of like intimate moment, but one that still felt so powerful.
I think for me, like when you talk about feel like you're a part of the show, I remember the first time. So I went out to California to visit one of my friends, Jess, and she had invited me out to a concert. And it was funny because looking back on it, it was for like the Coney, I think it was like Coney 2010 or whatever. And it was a benefit concert for them. And so this lineup was Aaron Gillespie, the guy from, I think it's Nickel Creek, the lead guy, John Foreman, of
Was it
Switchfoot.
Fiction Family?
So they came out and did that, but they also did their separate stuff.
Okay.
So I guess essentially they
That's cool.
did their thing, then they became a third band.
I love Fiction Family.
And so they did a couple of their stuff, and the opener, I believe his opener for the whole night, was a guy named Aaron Wise. And it was crazy because they get on stage and there's like, I don't know, 15, maybe 20 people on stage. And come to find out later on, it was just he had put on social media like, hey, if you guys want to show up and you know our songs, bring your instrument. And I was just like, that's so cool. And so fast forward, they were like on hiatus. So Me Without You, they're releasing 10 Stories. So they're going to start touring again. and they're coming to Columbia. So me and my friends go, and we go in this little it's like this little bar in Columbia. I'm forgetting the name of it, but they came and all these people are in the bar, and I'm sitting there like New Brooklyn Tavern. That's what it is.
Yeah, I've been there.
And so they're about to get on stage, and I look at my friends, and I'm like, these people are about to be so confused as to who this band is. Turns out like we were the ones that weren't huge like Me Without You fans, because there was like half the songs I hadn't heard before, but everyone in that room is just like singing along and just paying it, and it's like we're all there because we love this band.
Yeah.
There's no one there that's just, I got dragged here or whatever. It's like everyone there is just so into it. And what was cool is with Me Without You, they had like their set list was just changing night to night. So it's like if you go to a lot of bands nowadays, you might have one, maybe two songs change. You know, like if Need to Breathe comes to Charleston, maybe
Yeah.
they sing a song that's about, you know, that or whatever. But most bands have the same stuff. With Me Without You, if they're playing 20 songs, there might be 10 of them that are the same. And then there's just 10 that are different. So you could go to a concert 3 nights in a row and you're not getting the same show. And I just always thought that was so special that like, it just felt like what we have in this night tonight, no one else is going to like share this. Like
Yeah.
this is our like special time. And it just felt like that with like every Me Without You show that they would do, like, because I got to see them see maybe like 3 or 4 more times.
Yeah.
And it was just like every time it was just cool thinking like it wasn't just we're just punching the clock and we're getting in and out of here. It's we want to put on something special for everyone.
In college, my band, there was this club, this like Christian concert venue in the same town as our college, that the guy who like recorded our first record, he and his wife ran. It was called the CLB. And so there were concerts at the CLB every weekend. And we played at a bunch of them, and bands like Joan Zeta and stuff were playing there. But
That's
it
who I was hoping you were going to build earlier when you were talking about like being in Mississippi. Just like, it's been Josetta hit the
I actually
stage.
never played a show with Joan Zeta, sadly. But anyways, so this room's pretty small, probably like it's smaller even than our church lobby. Pretty small room, but we played with a band there one time called The Operation. And they're like an indie rock, emo kind of band. And they had a record out that was awesome called There's Hope for a Tree Cut Down. I want to say it was on like the Militia Group or something, but I can't exactly remember. But the drummer for that band was a guy named Aaron Weiss. And I think that a couple of guys from The Operation started Me Without You as a side project, because Aaron wanted to try out being a front man. And so it was kind of an interesting thing. But I remember we played with The Operation, and then we were at Cornerstone in 2003. It's probably the same year, honestly. And there was, at Cornerstone back in the day, there'd be like generator stages where bands would just kind of like set up and play, bring a generator. And we were walking by and saw my first Me Without You show on a generator stage. And we're like, some of the guys from The Operation, which is kind of fun. I've got one more that I can mention.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any more.
Yeah, I got one more too.
Okay. So I think just like a next one for me that was pretty impactful. Started listening to a guy that I've already talked about on this podcast, Sufjan Stevens. And so Sufjan like blew up at a point in the early 2000s. After Illinois. Illinois was kind of this big breakout record for him. But then he put out another album after that called Age of Odds. And that was my first opportunity to get to see him live. He played in Asheville. and so I remember Emily and I went. We met some friends up there. I went to go see him play, and just the scope of that show. You talked about having a lot of band members on stage, but there were probably about 15 musicians on stage. I remember there were 2 drum kits, like 2 drummers, 2 drum kits up there playing that concert. And if you listen to that album, Age of Odds, it's bonkers. Like, it is a bonkers record in all the good ways. But like, perfectly pulled that album off. And was just one of the coolest music experiences that I'd ever seen. There's like a 20-minute song that ends that record. And it's amazing. It's called Impossible Soul. And they did the whole thing live. And at the end of it, it's just like this explosive, like all out, one of the poppiest things that you've like ever heard. But just such a cool like celebration. And there's balloons and confetti, and it's just like, it was just this magical moment, just being able to catch it live. And so that one, I feel like, is one that I'll never forget. It was just kind of a next level one for me, of kind of opening up my eyes, that even as an adult, I can still be like wowed at a concert. Yeah.
That's really cool. I think for me, the next step was, so I grew up like a huge House of Heroes fan, and just never got to see them live. What's crazy was that, like, it wasn't until like college that now I was like, okay, cool, I can drive far away. And then everyone I love stopped touring.
Yeah.
So there were so many shows that I'm like, you guys would have stuck out to one more year, I could have made that drive to Greenville. So they announced they were going to do a reunion show in Nashville. And I was like, okay, we'll do this. And it's like an 8-hour drive, but I was like, it beats having to drive to Ohio for a show.
Yeah.
And so we drove out, and it was in Nashville, and they were playing The End Is Not the End in its entirety.
Oh,
and
so jealous.
It was so cool, because I think you can relate, or anyone listening can relate, that you'll go to a concert and, you know, they can only play so many songs. So there's bound to let off like a song on the album. But like, there's some of those songs that like never get played live.
Yeah.
And I think even at that show, there was a few that either had never been played or might have been played like once, like at the very beginning. But it's just as time goes on, you pull maybe, if you're lucky, 3 songs from that.
Yeah.
And so it was so cool just getting to have an album that was so special get played. But also just a show like that, it's kind of the same way with the Me Without You, that just everyone there is there to see the House of Heroes people. So everyone there is there because like they love it. So just everyone is just really loving it. I don't know why I feel like I need to say that. I feel like I said like everyone's loving it, just 4 different ways. Their opener, Tedious and Brief, was an awesome band, and it was cool just afterwards getting to see them, because I'd met Tim and Stephanie years ago. They came to our church and played, and we got to open for them. So technically I got to open for Copper Lily, but not House of Heroes.
Right.
But it was just so cool getting to talk to them, and also them remembering us. So like, that's a big key, is that it's not just like, you mean so much to me, and Tim going, who are you? And so it was cool getting to walk up and be like, hey, Tim. I'm like, I remember you. And it's like,
That's awesome.
all right, this trip was worth it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was cool just getting to experience that live. And also just at that point, you're a band that you're not like doing that show just because you have an obligation with your label. You're
Right.
doing that because everyone wants to get together and play it. And so it's just cool. To me, you can tell whenever bands are putting out music or putting out shows, and they're just there just to say, all right, we did this, we're out, versus the ones that are like, no, we're here because we love this, or we love our fans. I did have, before we wrapped up,
Can I ask you one question really quick about that? So you probably know House of Heroes is playing another show in December. or in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
Are you going to that? I don't
Did they
how
just
far
release
that
like
is
the
away.
opener or something?
I don't know who the
Oh.
opener is, but I was just wondering if you were going to go.
I don't know. I'm on the fence
There's
about
a low ticket warning.
it. I'll just call Tim up and say, "Yo, Tim, give me a ticket." He'll probably be like, "Who is this?" I don't know. My friend Miranda, she like loves House of Heroes like with a passion, and I know she's gonna be there. So
Yeah.
it's funny because the Nashville one is the one show she missed, so I know she'll be there. So
Yeah,
I don't
Nashville
know.
would probably be a little more doable. I don't know how far Columbus is.
It's just you have to drive through mountains and snow, and I don't know what else is in Ohio.
Oh, that's funny.
So I had a quick question though before we wrap this
Yeah.
up. So I feel like you named a lot of bands you loved. Is there one or two bands that you missed either back then or now? So you could either like I don't know if you want to go with Time Machine. So if you want to go back to the '90s and see Peak, or just in general, like is there one or two bands that you're like, man, I wish I could have seen, or right now I want to see?
Yeah, I actually think House of Heroes probably would have been one of those bands for me. Because I just never I mean, I got into them when they were active, but I feel like they never came super close by. I started listening to them after The End Is Not the End came out. So yeah, they'd probably be up there for me.
I feel like it's tough to think because right now I'm hoping that you take time so I can look up because I don't have an answer. Or
Right.
while you think of yours, we can throw it back and forth.
Okay.
I think Starflyer 59, like that's a band that like it's it's cool, and we talk about these bands that you meet and it's like they open up this new chapter or this new room of music. And I think that's a band that, when you talk about just authentic, that's a guy that like is releasing music because that's what is on his mind.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's one of those shows that I wouldn't want to go see Starflyer 59 in a coliseum of people. I'd want to go that even if it was just 50 people in a room, I feel like that'd be the most amazing show.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Just getting like the story or just hearing him talk. What's upsetting though is that he probably wouldn't bring merch, and that would upset me because I'd be like, I want to buy stickers, and he'd be like, I don't care.
That's funny. I think I saw them at Cornerstone that year that I was there in 2003. I'm pretty sure they played. One for me is probably Rich Mullins.
Okay.
You can talk about an artist that's impacted me more than maybe any other. In the Christian music world, I never got to see Rich perform live, and I would have loved that. So I think that definitely would have been one that that stands out to me. All this talk makes me think about another band that I got to see that I deeply love that I did mention, and that's PFR, who I can't wait to talk about PFR at some point, but they were my favorite band for years throughout the course of all this, and I did get a chance to see them a couple of times, and those were always really cool experiences. So
I think for me, the other artist that comes up is like, of course, like John Rubin. Because when you asked about the concert, I was like, I was telling you earlier, I'm like, man, if they announce he's the opener, like that might seal the deal of
yeah,
driving up. I do think it's funny that there's some bands that you love and you just have to wait forever for them to come. But then I think of other bands like this year, Gable Price and Friends. Like if I had like an artist of the year, like for me, that would probably be them or Colony House.
Yeah.
And literally Gable Price, like got to see them like within like a week or two of finding their music. And then Colony House started listening to them in like July, and we went and saw them in October. So I feel like it's funny that there's some bands you wait like years to try to check them off your list, and the other ones you're like, oh, that was easy. I got to go see them live. They played my favorite song. I got to buy some merch. So
Yeah.
it's like, there you go. They're off the list.
Yeah, that's cool. It's so cool. And I feel like just they're bands that I never got to see. That some of the like nostalgia fests that have happened, like a Furnace Fest or whatever, opened the door for me to see bands that I never had the chance to see. So
Yeah.
like, the first Furnace Fest that I went to, was able to see Mineral. It was one of my all-time favorite bands. Stretch Armstrong, who I had never seen. This last one that I went to, being able to see Slick Shoes.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm thankful that so many of these bands are like still active or will do occasional concerts.
Yeah.
Just kind of giving an opportunity to connect and catch up on things that we missed back in the day, which is really fun. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
All right. Well, let's kind of finish up talking about our lyric of the week.
It's time for the lyric of the It's time.
The lyric of the week, I almost forgot that it was my turn to choose because I was about to just wait for you to be like, all right, when is that getting here? Actually, give me a second. I pulled the wrong one.
It's all good.
I was like, that's not.
I will say that when we don't have a specific artist that we're talking about, we typically like to pull from a Starflyer 59 lyric, as we've talked about on this podcast, because we got the name of this podcast from a Starflyer 59 song, and they're one of the artists that we originally connected over. So,
All right, here we go. This is from the I Am a CEO, the title track of I Am a CEO. You can sail across the sea. You can climb the highest peak. You can build it on your own, but you're still not in control.
yeah, that's a great song and a great record. I remember when that one came out. It actually was the album that like drew me back into Starflyer 59.
Really?
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Because I had been out for a few records, and that one's the one that kind of pulled me back in and said, "No, you love this band. Like, spend time with them again." So that's great. That's great. Well, this has been fun getting to talk about some of our favorite experiences. So I appreciate the idea, Brandon, and it's fun getting to kind of look back and remember some of this stuff. We hope that you guys will continue to join us on this journey, and we have a form that if you go to our social media and you'd like to come on and be a guest and talk about one of your favorite records, you can fill out that form, and we'd love to have you on at some point. But we're just thankful that you're with us for the journey and excited to continue to talk about some fun stuff that's coming up. And so we look forward to catching you again next week.
Hey, are you listening?